All right, Kill Team fans, here we are. Another day, another game in the Transatlantic Open, brought to you by Command Point and the Data Team. Along with me today, I have Data Team's founder and originator, the ELO King himself, Fudder, aka Tim. I don't know which you prefer, but welcome.
Tim's just fine, thank
Uh,
you. That's quite the introduction.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's true, right? You came out of nowhere. You played in one of these tournaments. You were like, I love this game so much. I'm gonna build a system. I'm gonna build a system of numbers that I don't understand how it works. That's me personally. I'm not interpreting you, but I'm gonna build this system of numbers, and it's gonna be a system to rule all systems. And now we have Data Team ELO. Yeah, welcome to the stream. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks, man. Really looking forward to this match.
Yeah, it is. We have Command Point's own Shane running his Drukari versus, of course, an ambulance goes by. Versus versus Alec and his Tau. Alec was on stream with me last week watching a mirror matchup of this between Biranid and Command Point Ryan. Just yesterday, we saw Command Point Ryan get eliminated by our boy Micromancer and his Astra Militarum, guaranteeing that there will be one non-Drukari in the final four. I mean, there's still potential for other non-Drukaris, right? This Tau could beat the Drukari here, but every other quarterfinal has a Drukari in it besides the one at the top of the bracket, which let me take a moment here and show the bracket. This isn't updated for the Micromancer win over Ryan, but it is there. So we'll have Thousand Suns versus Astra Militarum at the top of the bracket. We will have Astra Militarum versus Drukari with Rasha Fern versus Manco. We will have Admech versus Drukari with Ray J versus Dangerfro. And we will have Tau versus Drukari, which is the matchup we're looking at right now between Alec and Shane. Any thoughts so far on the tournament?
Yeah, no, I mean, coming into this is kind of the like ultimate doom of what I thought was gonna happen. So many Drakari players started filing right at the very beginning, and we meaning me and Biernid, because we like conspiracy theoried out just a bunch of lists against Drakari. And this was kind of the ultimate fear, was that Drakari, who is just such a solid all-around team, would kind of dominate this T3 environment that we're in with 100 points. And it's coming true. Obviously the loss against Astra Militarum against Micro the other day, that's got some huge implications. Maybe, we're going to have a hero arise to bring down the Drakari hordes. But I think that this game in particular, this one is going to be really interesting because, Shane is coming back off of his win of the BAO. And Alec is just an all around solid player. His ELO score right now isn't quite as high as Shane's, mostly because he hasn't been playing in a lot of some of the tournaments, and he doesn't really do a lot of the ranked matches and things like that. But outside of ELO, pre-COVID, Alec has quite the reputation as a player. And Shane coming out of almost nowhere now, is just dominating the ELO. Highest ranked player in the ELO, number one. His current ranking is 1781, which for those people out there that don't really know, that is a pretty high score. He's about 20 points away from being considered our first expert in the ELO rankings, and that's a big benchmark for the ELO and a big benchmark for Shane himself. I'm really excited to see the outcome of this.
If you don't love math, you don't love Kill Team. All right, people. Uh, so yeah, Shane doing very well in the ELO. Like I said, I'm still not 100%. I understand all the numbers, but I know you win, your number goes up. You lose, your number goes down. Bada bing, bada boom. Try to win those games. Get that ELO up. Yes, Alec is a really good player. I have never had the fortune of playing him at a tournament, but I have watched him play at tournaments. I have met him at tournaments. He is from NorCal. He runs a lot of out of that meta, their local meta. He ran a lot of Drukari, and that's pretty much all I've heard of him playing before this. So it is interesting, right? Because this is his first tournament as Tau, but Tau aren't super tough to learn, but they've got some little intricacies that you've got to pull together and, know what to do with certain models and where to keep them within ranges for things like savior protocols and things like for the greater good, but he knows his opponent so well because he knows this Drukhari team pretty much in and out because he's been playing it since Go, I think, for Kill Team. So we are going to jump into the match really quick. I believe they have already done their musters, so let me pull that up. And oh gosh, are you going to pull the game for me? There we go. It did. And you know what? I had forgotten to set up the score sheet really quick. So let me do that. And then we'll take a look at the muster after I get this scoreboard up and running. Boom, boom, boom. I usually do this before, but that's because I set up the servers. In this case, I did not set up the servers. So I blame Shane for doing it ahead of me. Okie dokie. All right, we'll just kind of go there. We'll lock that. Then that should be good. Pull that down a little bit just so everybody can see. All right, perfect. Good to go. I'm going to let these guys know. So let's take a look at the musters here. Interestingly enough, we knew that it was going to be drone spam from Alec. The only crisis suit that he has on his list is that 3 flamer, but he has a stealth suit here, which is pretty interesting to me. I mean, the stealth suit takes what? It's the same cost as like 3 drones compared to a crisis suit, which is usually like 6 or 7 drones. So a little bit more cost efficient. I haven't generally taken them at 100 points, but I like to run one at 125 because they can be super effective, especially against elite teams with the fusion. But this one looks like he's just running that burst cannon. It is 2 wounds. It can fly. It can use savior protocols, and it is a -1 to hit, which is pretty nice about it. So he'll be looking to plant that potentially in the center of the board. We'll take a look at their secondaries in a moment, but that's the one surprise I see about the muster so far.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised about that as well. If I remember back when they were designing the list, the suits really weren't, those weren't really added to be serious. But obviously, with the fly and everything there, Alec, in the matches that I've seen him, especially the match against Byrnit, he is a really positional player. And having that fly in this deployment is going to give him some really nice options to be able to kind of sit wherever he really wants with that. And so I would anticipate that's going to see some really interesting action there. But I mean, other than that, yeah, not really much surprising about his muster.
Not at all. He's got 2 rails. He's got the one comms rail, and he has a sniper rail rifle. I believe he's running them. Do you know? Does he run Sasea or does he run? Let's see. Or TAO Sept. I don't even know what he's running. I know I personally like Sasea because it works in all aspects of the game. Some people prefer. Excuse me. Some people prefer. I can never do that. I can never type and talk at the same time. It seems so simple, but I like breaks down the functionality of my brain. The gears just stop turning. So yeah, he is running Sasea. So that's the +1 to leadership and the re-rolling ones both on Overwatch and during the shooting phase, which is really really nice. So I prefer that over the TAO because TAO only works when you're actually getting charged for the Overwatch. So really quickly, let's take a look at Shane's muster. So he went with the Mandrake spam as we're used to. He took an Acothyst combat, and then he took both the Klaivex Zealot and an Incubus. So this is actually similar to the roster that we saw Ryan take against the Tau of Byrnid last week with the Incubi and the Klaivex, Mandrakes, Nightfiend leader, and an Acothyst combat. It's actually identical, I believe. Mind you, their rosters are very close to one another. And he's not too much surprising there on my end. Of course, those 3 Mandrakes are already put into reserve, ready to drop it in with that deep strike, which on this map will be a little bit more difficult to zone out compared to the last deployment. This is that corner V shape, really close to one another deployment, which I think actually helps Shane out a lot here as the Drukhari versus the Tau.
Yeah, no, I mean, all these melee models and everything else like this is going to be a really hard answer, especially if you can get him in there. I would expect that he's going to be relying probably a lot on his rail rifles to try and prevent that inward movement. But I still think that I still think that the Tau may have a positional edge. Can we take a look at his secondaries by chance? Because it
Yeah,
looks like
let's
he's
do
got
that.
two positional secondaries on Alec's side there.
So really quick, let's take a look at Shane's, just because that's the side of the board I'm on. Shane has Bounty Hunters, Thin Their Ranks, and Recon Sweep. So getting into that deployment zone will be super simple. He can pretty much use half a movement to get into there. Thin Their Ranks is two or more enemy models taken out. That one might be a tough ask in the early turns, but in the later turns, he can definitely score that. And then Bounty Hunters, of course, if he's getting into melee with these guys and killing them, you want to be able to pick up those bounty tokens. And looking over at Alex now, he also has Recon Sweep, which I think a little more not difficult for him to get into that deployment zone, but kind of scarier for him to get into that deployment zone, right? Because if he brings a guy into that deployment zone, he's pretty much sacrificing that model to those Drukaris. Um, and then he's got Bounty Hunters as well, which is interesting. Not sure what the other options were for this round. I know you actually decided the round, so you might have more insight into that. But Bounty Hunters seems a little bit odd. I don't like it personally as Tau, just because most of my killing gets done at range, and then I have to move in and pick up said tokens, which can work later in the game when you have more flexibility. But I feel that ties a model to picking something up when it might be needed elsewhere. And then his third one is engage on all fronts, which that kind of works out with recon sweep because you can have a guy in that quadrant as well as be scoring the recon sweep. But kind of difficult engage on all fronts, I think. Not super difficult for the drones themselves, but kind of scary because you might have to position a model somewhere you don't want it to be.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that Alec is going to have trouble with that corner. Shane's just got so much just hanging out in that corner, and every single model there is a threat. Um, maybe not the first round, but once he starts dropping those mandrakes and come round two, and we're going to have some charges, I think that we're going to have some issues with the Tau trying to get in on those. But I think maybe round three, four, I think it'll clear up a little bit more for him and make it a little easier for him to get in there.
Yeah, so we do have initiative, but more interestingly than the initiative, we will get to that. The Tau have won it. Alec has won the initiative, or rather, as Tau would say, lost the initiative, because everybody's going to know where your rails are positioned and how to hide from them. So, looking though, the three Mandrakes, Mandrake Veteran, and two regular Mandrakes set up here in reserve makes complete sense. But you look at Alec's side. Now, this is interesting. He has three drones set up, which you can use the 1 point deep strike to drop in a crisis suit or any number of gun, shield, or I believe uh, the marker light drones. And so he's got two gun drones and a shield drone set up that will most likely deep strike. That's 1 point. But he's put his stealth battle suit into reserves as well. Now that is one of the interesting deep strike tactics in the game because it doesn't actually work during the reserves portion of the game. You set up after the first, or is it at the start of round one? So he's not even bringing that in using the tactic because he would have had to have used it now. You do it after deployment, but before the round actually begins, before any movement, you have to bring that suit in. And it has to be, I think, further than 9 inches away. I actually have the tactic over here. I got to look it up. But so he's not going to be using that, obviously. Looks like stealth fields, right? Yeah. So choose up to 3 cell suits, yada, 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 reserve, and set them up anywhere in the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from any enemy deployment zone. So, but that's at the beginning of the first battle round. So he's not going to be using that. Oh, no. Initiative. He is using it. Okay. So
Oh
he
yeah,
just.
no, he's putting it right there in the middle. It looks like, just like you said.
Yeah, okay. So he is doing that, which is interesting, right? Because domination isn't available here. So he forgot to use that. So that's what he's doing right now. I think I mean, he didn't really do any movement. He did a few, but it doesn't really matter since he had the initiative anyway. It was his movement that was going to be happening, not like it's not as if Shane had started to move his models because then it would have been an issue with, oh, we have to move those models back or something like that. But has to be at least 9 inches away from the enemy deployment zone, not from enemy models. So mind you, the enemy models won't be any further from the deployment zone, so it's basically the same thing. So he's got it set up there in the center of the board. Yeah, interesting way to use that CP because I'm assuming he'll use his other CP to bring in those drones. So he's going to be down to no CP by the time the movement phase is over in this first turn.
Yeah, and Shane, he's going to drop those mandrakes for sure. So, I mean, he's going to be left over with one, which is going to give him maybe a couple of options there. Maybe a fire and fade into the recon sweep if he decides not to move the units in there and not get shot up by rails. But interestingly, though, that 9 inches there, that's going to put him right in charge range of each one of those models. Maybe not the best charge range optimally. I mean, he'd need an 8 inches to get in there because those models are towing the line for the most part. But I'm interested to see how Shane responds to that out in the middle there.
Yeah, that is a scary Overwatch, though, right? It's not the strongest thing, but you're looking at, I mean, mind you, it'd be not as scary for the Incubi and the Klaivex because they have that 3-up save and it is no AP, but it is 4 shots. So if you're charging into that, he's got 4 chances at that 6, and it's a strength 5, so you're wounding on 3s. It's not the most terrifying thing in the world, but it is a realistically good Overwatch. It's equivalent to a drone, besides the fact that it all goes at once. You don't get 2 chances at the wound roll at the out of action. But I wouldn't put it past him to charge it, but I would just say it is capable of killing some of these things in Overwatch.
Oh no, for sure, and I think that Shane is probably going to evaluate that as a gamble that he doesn't necessarily need. I think he's going to have a better time trying to pick other things off. Though, I mean, obviously now we see some charge measuring from Shane to see what he's got and what kind of dice action it's going to take to get him in there. But yeah, the redding over there, that's got to be kind of a sweaty situation for Shane because he's got to move his melee into that deployment zone, and it doesn't look like there's a spot that's not going to have him exposed to a rail rifle.
Yeah, if he wants to get into the deployment, mind you, doesn't have to do that exactly turn 1, right? You've got 3 other turns to get. Let's see. 1 sec here. Let me get back in. Uh, did you get dropped, or are you still in the server?
I am not currently in the server here.
Okay, so the game must have dropped here. I'm sure Shane will host it. Let me check. Is that what you meant when you were saying the error there? Any
yeah,
camera failure on stream? Okay, let me see here. Two, 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 two. Do, do, do. Yeah, so go ahead and fill with anything you'd like to talk about while I figure out these technical
yeah,
difficulties.
no, that's no problem. There's always technical difficulties, but yeah, no. Shane has actually had a really. I mean, we were talking about the ELO earlier, and the ranking of 1781. That's actually a fairly high score. So Shane's current record is 22 matches and 3, where he has won. And those were all ranked play, and a lot of those matches came out of BAO. Shane, as a player, I mean, I don't know that we've ever seen him at any major events before, but he has certainly shown a lot of creativity in his interpretation of what packets want, which is really the question you got to ask yourself each time you take a look at this packet. What kind of environment is it going to spawn, and what does it want you to do? And Shane has just done a really great job in the past few tournaments, really reading that and deciding this is the way to go. And prior to this, Shane was not a fan of Druhkari. There's a lot of talk, and I've certainly kind of uh, made that talk myself about how Druhkari feel kind of like a training team because they're just so good. I mean, you consider the Mandrake and everything that goes into that Mandrake, and the power through pain abilities and everything that goes in there. The Druhkari team is just an amazing team when it comes to a T3 environment like this. Maybe not so much in a 125 point environment. I think that they're still good there, but 125 points really kind of just changes the environment. But Shane made the determination that Druhkari was really going to be the main faction to play here, and he brought them, and he and several other Druhkari players have really proven that Druhkari are going to dominate in 100 points. Now, on the other end of that, we have Micromancer, who, BAO was his first tournament, and he really brought in some amazing models into that. And he did a great job coming in second in that tournament. And so far, he's proving that he is almost Shane's equal in being able to read maps. I think his selection of Astra Militarum was a really good one, and so far he's just driven that home.
Yeah.
And if you watch him play, he plays a lot like he's playing his Heretic Astartes with his Astra Militarum, which is kind of funny to watch because he's even started using the
Chaos models.
the cultist models in
Yeah.
place of the Astra Militarum models. But no, really interesting to see, that that list is kind of making its way through. And, obviously we have some other interesting lists out there as well. But right now, it's just all about seeing whether or not these Drakari are really just going to tear everything down on their way up. Had Ryan won, I mean, we could have seen like an all Drakari series of finals, which would have been
Yeah,
interesting to
nobody
watch.
nobody wanted to see that. Yeah, we were in a situation where every single quarterfinal was going to potentially have a Drukari in it. Now it doesn't, thankfully. So we will at least have. I mean, we could still have a Drukari grand final. That could absolutely still happen. There's still three of them in the last eight teams, but there was almost four, and no mirror match were going to be lined up there. We are going to be jumping back into TTS in a moment. I will jump onto what you were saying. I had Astra Millim ahead of Drukari on this just because of how flexible I think they are compared to Drukari. In a lot of this, they're taking very similar lists. It's the backbone of them is those Mandrakes, which again, I think translates to 125 because you just pop in a few more Mandrakes, or you can, use a Grotesque, or you can do some of these other interesting things. But they are a very interesting team in how they work in that they're strong. Some of their strongest units aren't affected by those restrictions of a subfaction, and then on top of that, the rules that they have with the power from pain and things like that are almost a subfaction of their own, right? So, and you get multiples of them as the game goes on and the game gets longer. I am jumping back into this server. Let's see if we're loaded in. I will also say, as a longtime TAO player, I love TAO. I never thought TAO was going to be bad in this packet. We obviously saw there was two TAO players in the final four of the Spanish tournament where this packet originated, but it was one of those situations where I personally don't enjoy playing them on Tabletop Simulator. Um, it's a lot of work and a lot of models to move in general. Like even here with a stealth suit, he's still got 11 models. So normally this would be like a 13, 14 model team, and it's a lot of movement. And Tau play that one type of game, right? It's I'm going to shoot at you and I'm going to try to avoid you, and I have these savior protocols and I have these other little things to make it difficult for you for the greater good to overwatch you. And on a very open map like this, they can seriously take advantage of those kinds of tactics. Obviously, Drukari very strong, but Alec last week he said it on stream. He took one look at this packet, one look at this map, and he thought the complete opposite of Shane. He said Drukari on here is awful. Obviously, not awful, but he thought there's too much open terrain. It's too difficult to get in. Some of these map setups, which we saw in the match the other day between Ryan and Micromancer, some of these maps and deployments are way too difficult to cross the field in an open field like that. You'll get shot off the board. So he said, I'm not taking Drukari. He said, I think I like Tau here. I'm going to play Tau here. And here he is in the quarterfinals. We are back into the game. Let me get that up on stream. I forgot to change scenes over. Okay, we are back into the game. They are working on some of their movement, getting it set back up where things were meant to be. We had the loaded game from when it crashed for Shane, so I think there was just a few movements that were missing. But we're getting those back onto the board. So should be good to go here in a moment.
Yeah, and so you back to your comment on Tau and all of the all of the movement and thinking that goes into them. That's one thing that I think some people consider for these teams, and I think that's one edge that Drakari has is that Drakari, while there is some thinking that goes into that, it's not nearly the brain tax that Tau has. Because if you're going to win with Tau, if you're going to play well with Tau, there is really a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, a lot of looking 3 turns down the board in order to get them where they need to be and to have them exactly matched up against the models that you want them matched up against. And that kind of, I mean, we saw that in the mirror match of Bearded versus Alec. People talked about it as a golf game, but I mean, that had to be probably just one of the most grueling matches that the two of them had ever been through, because you're trying to win with 2 positional teams that are constantly trying to counter each other, and trying to find the right way to move everything and things like that. The one thing that has always kind of held me back from Tau is just how much you have to really plan and think about the match. And then a real tournament environment where you have to play 4 or 5 matches in a day. I kind of feel like after my first match, I'd just be done. I mean, you're a Tau player.
Yeah,
How's that gone for you?
I mean, it's you're not wrong, right? I mean, I've gotten I got second place at BAO. I've taken second and first in a number of the small tournaments we've had here in our own meta. I didn't fare so well at SCO, but I was also getting. I had meant to take my Grey Knights to SCO, and I didn't end up having them done in time, so I had to take my Tau last minute. But part of that was, yeah, I was getting burnt out on them. It's a lot of models, it's a lot of movement, it's a lot of tiny measurements, and a lot of thinking ahead, like, okay, is he going to do this? Is he going to do that? And okay, if I moved this drone, then it can't fall back on can't react on the charge and things like that to move, and like just little aspects like that, especially when you take arena into consideration as well. Then you're talking about, oh, drones can't open doors, so I got to have the models to open doors, and I got to worry about these close combat and these blind charges where, yes, I have a tactic to counteract it sometimes, but a lot of times I don't. On an open field like this, it's great. There's a little bit less, I guess, thinking than there is in arena, right? But it's still can be extremely taxing. And when, like you said, playing 3 or 4 games in a single day, I was definitely fried at the end of most of my tournament days, just because there's a lot. You're thinking about secondaries, you're thinking about the opponent that you're playing, you're thinking about all the stuff that a normal player thinks about, right? But then you're thinking about these small interactions of your models, like for the greater good, save your protocols, when you can use tactics, when you can't, little things like this that just, and with 14 models, it's so much. That's why I like playing my Grey Knights at LVO, whether I won or lost, was just such a refreshing gameplay for me because I threw down 5 or 6 models. I did what they did. I did my psychic. If it worked, great. If it didn't, it didn't, and my games were done at the end of the day and I was ready to drink and have a good time in Vegas. Like I wasn't completely fried like I have been with the Tau, but they are a good team. They are a solid team. They are my first love. I'm not super happy about the fact that it had to be drones, right? Like I have Fire Warriors, I have Crisis Suits, I own all these other models, and unfortunately, just the way that the models were made and the way that the game works, drones at that 7 point cost is just the way to go, and it's not even close really when you look at what a Fire Warrior or a regular
Yeah,
Pathfinder can
yeah,
offer.
no, drones are just fantastic, and especially in this environment where we don't have kill one, kill more, it's just kill one. You can really up that number of shield drones and really watch as they just kind of play their positional dance that they have there. Shane was considering using that Mandrake that he just moved there to try and screen out the backfield, but it looks like he decided against it, which is going to be interesting because Alec obviously gets the first. He's going to get to use his tactic first, and so I'm wondering. Oh, it looks like he reconsidered it.
There you go. He did. He absolutely did. Because, I mean, when you think about it, right, I guess you can keep that Nightfiend leader back. He screens from the recon sweep. But if you really need somebody on that objective, you can just drop a Mandrake in on there. I mean, he's going to have well, hopefully he'll have that ability. Like you said, Alec is going to get to go first with his deep strike. So it's possible he could do some zoning with his 3 drones that get to come in, that could make this a lot more difficult for those Mandrakes to drop in because he's already got this half of the board over here with his own models pretty well zoned out. Obviously, this corner and whatnot back here, some availability there that could leave his leader open to being shot. But at the same time, he'd be putting a model down in front of both of those rails. So, yeah, should be interesting to see this deep strike. I think it's going to be a challenge for both players to get those models into good positions that make it worth the CP and worth their position. On what you said with the shield drones, I agree with it being kill one. You don't need as many of the gun drones. I still like the gun drones. I was always somebody who took um, I took a few more shield drones than I think your average TAO player when it was at 100 points. Like I'd look more at three or four even out of the 10 drones that you'd be taking at 100 points in most cases. But when it goes to 125, I like to have like kind of a balance. So you can have those shield drones. You have one or two of them in the back to protect your rails, one or two of them in the front to charge any really scary models blindly, hopefully, and take them out so they can't get into your back line. And then you have those gun drones for kind of a middle line where they can sit on objectives, they can take pot shots at people. It's really about everybody talks about the rails and the recon and the comms and the sniper and all this kind of stuff and getting those two shots, hitting on twos, re-rolling ones, and like how scary those rails are. But honestly, in my opinion, the thing that makes TAO really scary is the quantity of fire, not the quality of fire, right? When you've got 8 drones, each with 4 shots, that's, what, 32 shots? Right? Is that my math right
Right.
there? Yeah,
Yeah.
32 shots. So would you rather have 32 shots hitting on fives or sixes, potentially all sixes, re-rolling ones, or would you rather have 4 shots hitting on twos? You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where
Right.
yes, the rails are good, but it's that quantity of fire that really puts it on the enemy. Now, mind you, there are times where I have rolled that many dice and still only hit once or twice. Like it does happen. It's hard to always fishing for sixes, but yeah.
It looks like we're getting ready to start measure out our first deep strike here. There's a particularly interesting power move that Shane made with his Klaivex by putting it against that shipping container, or what is supposed to be a shipping container. He's actually in an interesting position, and I think he is trying to bait that stealth suit to take a shot at it, because right now that model is in a great position. Shane's going to have 1 CP left over, which means that he can really play some shenanigans right there with that Klaivex and have the potential to move him. I can't remember. Does that Klaivex have like a grenade or a pistol on it?
Nope, absolutely nothing. If they are
Oh,
if they are moving, I mean if they're not in combat, they're not doing anything. So that's why you pretty much the Incubi and the Klaivex, you always advance them because there's no reason not to. In
right.
this situation, yeah, he'll be standing right there, and I don't know that it's so much baiting him into taking shots, right? It's a 2 wound model, so you might want to use the stealth suit to take shots at that Acothyst or potentially um, the Incubi rather than the Klaivex, just because I'm not sure you're actually going to be able to take it out with the 2 wounds with the 1 damage. But it is 4 shots. It is strength 5, no AP. So you might not want to put him into that Klaivex. It might be a little bit of a bait, like you said, but that stealth suit still definitely has kill potential on the board. And even if the Klaivex gets into combat with it, the stealth suit, like the Mandrakes, is at a -1 to hit. He's 2 wounds himself, and if there's a shield drone in there next turn, which there should be, not as scary to not have that Savior Protocols turn 1 because the shooting from the Druhkari, not that terrifying. But I guess actually it could be with the Mandrakes, right? You get those 6 wounds and you're going to have some mortals put onto that suit. It's possible that it could, get taken out, but much less likely. I'll say that, but
Right.
I'm not too scared of it getting killed in combat in by this Klaivex. Obviously, the Klaivex terrifying model, but you're talking about a -1 to hit. You're talking about 2 wounds. You're talking about a 3-up save for the suit, and then on top of that, although that would go to a 6 with the Klaivex's weapon, but on top of that, save your protocols to get through. So there's a lot there that has to be
Right.
done to take it out.
Oh no, for sure. But I think that the temptation with that Klaivex is that it literally threatens the entire right bottom corner of the board there. I mean, you've got a Pathfinder down there, you've got your Recon Drone down there, and it's technically possibly within range of that 2 objective markers. So, I mean, it really just has so much potential for explosion that I think that that's going to be something interesting to look at.
Yeah, mind you, just a little bit of confusion. That is the incubi that he has up against that container. The Klaivex is down here.
Oh,
Yeah, he
oh, I'm
actually
sorry.
swapped it
My
up.
bad.
No,
My
no, I
bad.
mean before I think he his initial movement he had moved it there to see if he liked it, and then I think he brought it back. I think that was a copy of the model, and he ended up moving the incubi there. Klaivex is over here in the middle of the board, so still scary position for it, right? It can potentially charge into the shield drone back here. It can charge into the center of the board onto your battle suit. We're definitely going to get some turn two charges. There's no doubt of that. That incubi is still terrifying though. That is one wound. I would be with the stealth suit looking to attack that incubi because right now that incubi has a lot of potential to get in a blind charge on this whole back corner. So
Absolutely. And it looks like Shane's going to choose the top of the container for that Mandrake, which is going to give him some shots to maybe clear out the engage on all fronts. I think he kind of, based on the positioning of everything right now, I think he sees both recon sweep and engage on all fronts at this point. So he's going to work his darndest to get that drone off that board.
yeah, I will admit I would have put the shield drone into the recon sweep position and the gun drone onto the objective just because obviously you want to have all the quadrants, and maybe I would have moved this other gun drone up a little bit so that instead of being on this line that it was also taking this fourth quadrant. That way you had two models that could potentially hold it, whereas where he's positioned it now, it's in the middle, and so it's not wholly within this quadrant or wholly within the other. It's just somewhere in between, so it can't score either of those. um, that is a little scary in my opinion, just because I would rather have it scoring that objective and holding this. Yeah, and then again, the shield drone, I'd rather have the more survivable model in the deployment zone to secure that recon sweep. But we'll see. Alec has a plan here, no doubt, and he thought this through, right? You don't just throw a stealth suit into your lineup last second and spend that CP. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Those all of our mandrakes are on the board now, one on top of that container, and then two back here in this corner.
It's interesting that he doubled up the mandrakes there. I think he's going to be using those to head to objectives and then just sit there. I mean, it's definitely in they're definitely in position to go take out some drones or at least challenge objectives from up there. But to the other point, he doesn't have a lot of material on the right side of the board. Alec obviously not having a lot of material on his side of the board either. But at this point, Shane only has that one incubi over on the right side. And so I'm wondering what's going to happen over here because it looks like we're playing side against side at this point.
Yeah, and so there we go. We had our first round of shooting from these drones into that Acothyst. We had they are hitting on sixes because they start at 5 ballistic score, and he is obscured. But the first two shots he hit one, but there was a save made. No shots made there. Second shots. No shots made there. So drones not coming through in the early stages of this game. Rails, unfortunately, this is the thing we discussed, or I discussed, mentioned before about the initiative, right? Tau going first, you are losing initiative because they know where all your most powerful guns are going to be and they can hide from them. Mind you, he did leave this Mandrake up here on top of this tower who will be visible from at least one of these rails, if not both of them. But otherwise, pretty much all of his models are hiding behind these banners, using what cover they could find to take shots away from the rails, which obviously, on one hand, hurts the Druhkari player because they've now had to move in a way that they wouldn't normally move. But at the same time, those models are hidden and well within range of turn two charges. So we will see what happens here. I believe we're
Yeah, it
setting.
looks, yeah, we're setting up the rail now. He's
Mhm.
going to shoot that rail off. What
Yep.
is he targeting? Do you know?
I believe the only thing he can see is that Mandrake up top. I could be wrong. But I believe it's going into that Mandrake on top of the tower, and he appears to have used the recon buff. That's his comms there, so can't comms himself, but he will be taking 2 shots. So that would be just 2 shots hitting on 4s, I believe, because I think we're within half range here. I can measure that. Yeah, definitely half range of that rail. So it'll be 2 shots hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s with that Sasea. Yeah.
These towers are really interesting in this one because they're really like one of the few sources of obscurity. With those see-through rails, like you can still see
Oh,
the models always. Oh,
and you hate to see it. He rolled a 2 and a 3, so you're not
oh, that's
re-rolling,
awful.
not re-rolling any of those. And yeah, that is a tough ask. I feel like this sniper can see that Mandrake, but I could be wrong. I think he can through the mesh here, but I don't know if he's taking the shots. I don't know why he isn't. If they're measuring from the edge of the barrel, I feel like he can see that Mandrake, but they must have discussed it, decided that he couldn't, or that was the intent. Not sure, not inside the comms of these players here, but if that is the case, this is a almost brutal first turn shooting for the Tau, right? Like this is not what you want to see. You want to get some shots in, and now it does look like I believe the stealth suit is going to take shots into that incubi. Yep, 4 shots into
Yep.
that incubi. So here we go. He'll be hitting on 4s and
Oh no,
nothing.
that is just
Absolutely.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, this is the sorrier side of Tau, right? Like they still have the positional game plan. They've still got a lot of other stuff going on, but man, it can be brutal sometimes when you are hitting absolutely none of your shots. Mind you, one of these rails, I believe, just didn't have any shots at all. The other one was his comms. Maybe in that situation, I would have planted the sniper up top, but obviously too late to go back and do that. Oh, okay, some good shots there. He's going to get 1 hit on his first 2 guns into that Nightfiend leader, rolling for the wound. Rolls a 1, and he's got no CP because he used it all on positions. So, second 2
Oh,
shots into that Nightfiend leader, needing 6s, re-rolling 1s, and he gets a 2 and a 3. So this is the other tough thing, right? When you're playing Sasea, the numbers you most don't want to see are 2s and 3s. You want to see anything above a 4, usually for your rails, and you want to see 1s because you can re-roll those 1s, giving you potential for those hits. But yeah, 2s and 3s, just not a whole lot getting done there. So we're going to have this Mandrake veteran firing into this gun drone on this back objective. One hit. Looking at a
yeah,
wound
one hit.
here. Wounding on 4s, mind you. And he gets it. Okay. So
Oh no.
5 up save here. And he gets it with a 6. So, all right. That drone is safe and secure. I'm not sure there's really anything else that can fire at it. So he will be getting that. Again, I wish he had just nudged it over a little bit to make it so that it was in that quadrant and scoring the engage on all fronts for him. Because if this shield drone over here dies, which again, a difficult ask to kill a shield drone, but if it does die, he will lose out on that quadrant, which will be interesting to see if Shane picks up on that and assumes that he's
Yeah.
taking it.
So what would be interesting right now is he's got, it looks like 3 separate mandrakes that can fire into that gun drone. Uh, in my mind, that's the gun drone on the boundary of the map there. That's going to be a significant target for him. Uh, that represents 2 points, and so I'm wondering. I would expect to see at least firing those mandrakes into that guy until he's gone. But I mean, the rule always, fire into something that hasn't fired yet. But there's nothing else on that side of the map. So I think we're going to see quite a few shots from those mandrakes into that lone gun drone that's out there. And I think you're absolutely right about maybe he should put a shield drone there instead of that gun drone. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, this gun drone in the back now taking its shots. First 2 shots missed. Second 2 shots, 1 hits and 1 reroll here. Nope. So the 1 hit rolling to wound now. I believe this is onto the Mandrake, but it could be onto that Acothyst. Wound does come through, so we're going to see a save roll here. A 4. If it's on the Mandrake, that goes through, but I am assuming it was onto the Acothyst. Yeah. All right. I believe it was onto the Acothyst. So no go. Acothyst survives. And here are those shots into that gun drone. Like you said, that does, represent 2 points for him. Excuse me, represent 2 points for him. And Shane would have noticed that he brought it in not only into that quadrant, but into his deployment zone and was measuring to do so. So he's going to know that this model is set here for recon. And he is going to put everything he can in it to kill it. I believe that's a wound roll 6. Oh, no, that was the out of action roll. So
Yeah,
that,
that was the out of action. So there's the first token there, and that's 2 points gone. That's pretty significant in this early stage, but I mean, there's still time to make it back up with that shield drone. He's got to uncluster those models in the bottom right, or he's not going to have the position to win this one. But it's going to be hard at this point because he's going to have to go through a veritable minefield of Mandrakes, Incubi. You got a Acothyst down there, and you've got a Klaivex. So I'm not really sure that the positional is really going to pan out for him now.
yeah, it's a difficult situation, right? Now you're playing, what do you call? Gosh, of course I'm drawing. Man, this is just like last night. I'm not on my A game today. But you're playing musical chairs basically, right, with these models now because now that that drone's taken out, you need to get somebody in there for recon sweep. You need to get somebody in there for that quadrant, and then you need to shuffle other models up the board to take the positions of that shield drone that was in that quadrant, and things like this. So it becomes he's shuffling models up the board, but he's shuffling them into he's shuffling them into these Mandrakes and into these Incubi. He's shuffling them into the back line where the Druhkari player is all but happy to take those models into his arms, right? He'll embrace them with open arms and absolutely slaughter them in melee. So it's it's a tough ask to go for the recon sweep and the engage on all fronts. I get where Alec was coming from, but when I'm looking at secondaries, especially with with any team, not just with TAO, but it's like recon sweep, you need one model. You need one model to do that. That's not as much of an ask. With things like engage on all fronts, especially going up against a melee team, now you're asking me to potentially put models into a dangerous position, which obviously recon sweep is, but this is, you're asking me to put multiple models into positions maybe I don't want them. Maybe I can't kill. Oh, we've lost the server again.
Oh no.
Yeah, let's see here. All right. Let me check in with them and see what is going on. Maybe I can try hosting.
Yeah, what's interesting about the deployments so far, and with the drops in, Shane actually has kind of a jaw that's about to clamp down on the Tau. The way he's positioned everything, he's going to start moving those models forward and kind of bunch in the Tau into their corners and everything else like that. And like you were saying, like they will happily accept anybody that wants to play Red Rover from the Tau team in Shane's Mandrake slash Incubi slash Klaivex line there. And so I think it's going to be really hard. But I mean, the stealth suit has fly. So there's still a possibility we could see a jump there that might put that stealth suit into position to help score those missing points.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. The stealth suit is going to be playing a part in that. Obviously, with the way that it comes in, having to be 9 inches away, it couldn't really position, I guess, in that much more forward position um, in the first turn. But I would definitely expect that the stealth suit is a big part of his positional gameplay. It's 2 wounds, -1 to hit. I'd say it is equally so survive not equally, but it's up there with the shield drone in terms of survivability. Obviously, the shield drone has the invuln 4 up, and then it has the feel no pain, which is great and super survivable. But if you pair that stealth suit with a shield drone, and I mean, heck, you could have one on one side of the quadrant, right, in the lower quadrant, and have it still be within 3 inches of the shield drone. I think in the other quadrant for the potential savior protocols, but also to score both of them at the same time. But yeah, this is a difficult situation he's in considering how his first round of shooting went, and now losing that model, the gun drone in the recon sweep and the engage on all fronts position. it puts him on the back foot, right? Now he's got to move some other models that maybe he didn't want to have to move this early in the game. He's got to move them up the field and get them into that position because now he's not going to score recon sweep turn 1. He's not going to score engage on all fronts turn 1. So now if he wants to max either of those, he has to score them 2, 3, and 4 in turns 2, 3, and 4. So he doesn't really have an option. All right, I am getting transferred host here. It's going to relaunch the server, and then we should be good to go. There we go. All right. So if you want to jump back in, you can. It is up. Promote Alec. So yeah, it's one of those things that obviously with a lot of these positionals, right? You're putting a model in a risky position to get those points, and that's why it's more of these horde teams that can do them, because you can sacrifice those models. But even having the models doesn't always put you in a position that you want them to be there, right? Like, and now you're forced to move them. Maybe that Klaivex is sitting there. Maybe something super scary is in that back corner, and now you're forced to move these models towards it. Otherwise, you're not scoring any points.
Yeah, yeah, and going into round two, it looks like we could be 2-2, or maybe even 2-3 in Shane's favor, and so he's really going to have to work hard to get those positionals made up, because unless his real rifles start turning around, there's just going to be a point deficit by maybe turn 3 that Alec's going to have a difficult time recovering from. I mean, I think his position is still good. Like, he just needs to nudge that gun drone just a little bit over, and play around with that stealth suit, and he can start regaining his secondaries. But like I said, Shane definitely has
Yeah,
and it
that
looks
shield
like he
drone's
just
gone.
took out that shield drone.
Yeah, yeah. I accidentally muted my mic. I had a fire truck going by, and I forgot to unmute it. But I was interrupting you in the middle of what you were saying. Yeah, he got the wound, failed the save, failed to feel no pain, and that shield drone is gone. So those two forward position drones are out now, and it's difficult. I almost would have, with the shield drones that he had, having two of them, if he was planning on putting them that far forward, I maybe would have, made them both shield drones in that. Oh, and now the leader too. Okay, this is starting to fall apart quite quickly for Alec and the TAO. Uh, that leader just got taken out. I'm not sure where those shots came from.
Oh, they came from up there. Yeah, and now he's trying to fire and fade into the.
Oh, on top.
Oh, wow. That was an excellent move by Shane. Using that fire and fade just out of nowhere. I mean, that was excellent. And he took out that leader. That's really rough. I mean,
Yeah.
this is going to be a tough position to come back from. We're gonna we're gonna have to see what happens here if he can unbunch that and get him out there. But as of right now, it looks like he'll still hold more, but it's gonna be a point deficit for sure.
Yeah, and he's going to be down CP now, so no threat of the baited trap for the 4-up Overwatch because he will not have the CP for it. The leader got taken out. Now, this is an issue Alec talked about right at the end of that, right in about mid-turn 1. He forgot to move this shield drone. Something tells me either this shield drone was going to go up to the center to support the stealth suit, which may be less because the stealth suit is pretty survivable on its own. I assume this shield drone was going to move over here to not only zone things out, but give the leader a Savior Protocols drone. And not having that over there absolutely just bit him in the ass. So, yeah, we'll see how the rest of this plays out. I believe they were just checking deployment zones and quadrants for secondaries. They're doing their scoring. So that fire and fade gave Shane recon sweep, and he also got in their ranks because he took out
Yeah.
3 models. And I don't believe he was able to pick up any of the bounties, but obviously they're on the table, so that one was revealed as well. Yeah, super tough turn 1 for the TAO. I all it takes is one good round of shooting, right? But this is a situation where, let's see, Alec is going to have initiative again, which is this is not his game, right? This is a situation where not only are you already on the back foot, but now he's having to make these decisions on where to position his rails and where to position his drones before knowing where the enemy team's going to be here. Oh, and it is Shane. Shane is doing a okay. See, this is another thing. Shane is doing a decisive move here, and he will be attacking with that Incubi, who is blind charging. Pretty much, it looks like all of these models. Maybe just the rail rifle back here. Not sure, but he is going to have his pick of the litter with this setup charge where he positioned him turn one.
Yeah, yeah, and we talked about that. That model is just there threatening so many things. That's why it was so important to get off the board. But he tried with the stealth suit, couldn't do it. And now like Shane is gonna be able to punish and maybe even tie up that entire back line with that charge. Like it wouldn't even really matter if he took out a model because he's gonna tie up pretty much all of his firepower at this point, except for that stealth suit. But he'll be able to deal with that stealth suit with other models.
Oh, and Alex spends his one and only CP to try to contest the decisive move and stop that charge, and he rolls double ones, loses it. So now he has no CP, his leader's gone, and this charge will go through, literally targeting everything in that back corner. Okay. And he gets a 9, which is, I think, going to deliver
Oh,
him to just about anything he wants in that pack.
yeah, and I think in this case he really wants to tie up at least some of those rails so he has some freedom of movement. And we've also, whatever he does tie up is also going to be fodder for that Mandrake that's down there for him to just be able to run in there and do whatever he needs to do there.
The Mandrake and the Acothyst, to be completely honest, because I mean, it's turn two, you're re-rolling charges, and you're not going to be facing really any Overwatch, right? Neither of those rifles can see him. I believe one or two of those drones can, but if he ties up those drones now with this first, move, yeah, this could be this this could be a game-ending move here, depending on how this charge goes and where he gets tied up. Because even if these models don't get any kills, right, which they they're most likely going to get some kills in, but even if they don't, how do you as the TAO player, these positionals, how do you do anything with them? You're locked in. Even if he's not killing these models, they're not doing anything. The rail rifles aren't shooting anything. The drones aren't taking any positions that they need to up the field. You are, at least for one turn, going to be locked in, and that's another turn that you're not going to be scoring recon sweep. That's another turn you won't be able to get engage on all fronts because all these models are tied up in your back line.
Yeah, and I mean that's just gonna free Shane up to move whatever he wants, wherever he wants. Like we still have the stealth suit out there, but that stealth suit is probably feeling pretty lonely right now, and there are no threats on the left side of the board. So Shane can just move his mandrakes across the board wherever he needs to go and not have to worry about a backfield to keep track of. And that we've got that lone bounty token there that at this point I would just leave alone because you're going to get plenty of bounty tokens down in the bottom there. So I mean it's just going to be I think we're just going to see Shane move from left to right across this board and just tie up units and start scoring secondaries.
Yeah, so all right. So the Incubi had to re-roll his charge. He did get in on just that Pathfinder sniper down here in the bottom. So uh, does tie up that one sniper. I would be terrified if I was that sniper. Mind you, he's got the recon drone there, right? He's got the ability to toss off those wounds, but that's a big old bad Incubi right in front of a tiny little Pathfinder. Um, Thankfully, that Incubi only tied up the sniper, though, right? I think that at this point, Alec, after spending that CP and having turn one go the way it did, that's a best case scenario that that Incubi is only in on that one model, because he could have potentially tied up a lot more and really left Alec out to dry. I think had he thought about it, maybe the better choice would have been to tie up these two gun drones and this comms on top. But because now all of those are open to potentially Overwatch, they're open to potentially move up the field and take positions. Whereas tying up this one sniper, yeah, it's nice, right? But if you're looking to bring in any more models, right, you have this Mandrake out there. This Recon drone can see that for Overwatch. This drone up here can see that Acothyst for Overwatch. The Rail can see the Mandrake. So, I mean, Alex still has some options in this back corner now that only that sniper has been caught up.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I think you're exactly right there. There was a lot more material that could have been tied up, and now you can see Alec moving the gun drone across the board and just setting up for some interesting positions over there. Um, Shane really has the potential to just block him in, but if Alec can really get out of that back corner with these models, which looks like what he's trying to do, he might be able to start pulling off some positionals and things like that. It's just a matter of getting things out of that corner, like we talked about first turn.
Yeah, this is it's interesting, right? Again, I'm kind of a little bit worried, right? This is just one of those nitpicking things in my mind. But this drone that he just advanced, he puts him right on that center line again. So he's not in either one of the quadrants. So, yes, he's on that objective. I'm not sure the plan for that model, but whatever the plan for that model is, he could have done it on one side or the other, I think, just as equally as doing it down the center line, because now he's not wholly within either of those quadrants. So, that model, other than being on that objective, isn't doing a whole lot. But that's just, again, just a small nitpicky thing that I'm seeing from the outside. But it does concern me that that's the second time he's done it with a drone and feels like it was intentional, right? So, maybe he knows something that I don't, but I just wonder about little moves like that, right? Especially when you're trying to, crawl your way back into this game after a tough turn one. You need to have models in those positions ready to score.
It looks like, oh yeah, we've got some movement down there with the Recon Drone. Looking to probably set up some kind of shot up there. And now he's considering what to do with his two drones there. He's got that shield drone and a gun drone. The gun drone is what he's moving. Um, oh, it looks like he's trying to move all those pieces out to the center now.
Yeah, which again, I mean, I guess, right, again, he's looking at it differently than us, right? He knows his team, he knows what he's playing to for his secondaries, but he's moving those drones up. Okay, that one is going to specifically be on one side or the other, right? But he has nothing in this back right quadrant now, unless he slightly slides his gun drone over. He has nothing. Okay, now where he's got that, but I assume that stealth suit is going to advance his way up into the deployment zone, right? I can't imagine he's going to not try to score a recon sweep and engage on all fronts again. And no, see, he did. He left this drone in this back right side. So he has nobody scoring on this side now because this drone and this drone are both on that center line. They're not in this quadrant. Um, hmm little bit of confusion there, but again, he knows what he's doing. He's got a plan. Maybe not looking to try to max out those secondaries anymore. Just looking to take a defensive line, give himself some good shots in this turn two, hoping that a good shooting round in turn two could potentially turn it around and allow him to not max out, but get 2 points on either of those secondaries, right, in the turns three and turn four.
Yeah, and I think Alec is thinking that he's got to do something about the material that's still on the board because right now, I mean, there are so many threats that Shane has that, and after that shooting round where he couldn't remove a single model in that shooting round, he's got to be thinking about, it looks like trying to take some models out. And I think setting up those shield drones, isn't that going to put him in a good spot to do a big for the greater good?
On those gun drones, yeah, but I mean, now you're assuming why would why would he charge that, right? That's 8, that's 12 shots of Overwatch. And that's one, two, three, four. That's 5 rounds of Overwatch basically because each of the gun drones gets 2 times 2 shots, and then the stealth suit gets his 4 shots. So you're talking about 5 chances of getting it and out of action. Mind you, it's going to be all on sixes. I get it, but drones are hitting on sixes anyway. You're re-rolling ones. Why would you put yourself in a position to take all that Overwatch? It's kind of the same idea behind a crisis suit, right? Like it's this big old thing. If I can avoid it, kind of like Godfrey, why wouldn't I avoid it? Why would I want to engage that thing? If that thing's got 3 flamers on it, why am I going to charge it? Situation like that. So
Right. And well, I mean, maybe that's the point, though, is that he's just going to strongman that position and then kind of move his pieces around next round to kind of start scoring some secondaries. Because the interesting thing about engage on all fronts is you can just score it from the middle if you really need to. You just need to put pieces on different quadrants in the middle there. And they've made it really easy to set that up. maybe right now he's just posturing and presenting Shane with the question of, what are you going to do about my center? Are
Yeah.
you going to do something about it? You're just going to leave it there? And, Shane is going to have to consider whether or not he's just going to leave that center alone. Like you said, it sounds like the smart play to leave it alone, but Shane also has all of those mandrakes on that side to still move. And when those mandrakes come down, he's going to be able to position them all to kind of take out that center there,
Yeah.
which is going to be interesting to see how Shane responds to this movement.
So the other part of this, right? Like, okay, again, he readied up this drone. So this drone is on a center line. He's not scoring any quadrant. This drone's on a center line. He's not scoring any quadrant. And then you've got these two guys and that shield drone all scoring this one quadrant. I would have maybe moved the stealth suit up so it was right here, put one drone here, and then moved this drone so it was into this quadrant. And then you're scoring all four quadrants while leaving your models in essentially what is the same position they're in right now, right? This is a difference of like 2 inches to get it into this quadrant, maybe three. That's not a whole lot when you're re-rolling charges. And so now you've got these charges coming in, and yeah, it's a scary amount of Overwatch, but all he's doing is declaring that drone. So, okay, there's a re-roll one right there. But now you have to think, how do I want to use my for the greater good? Because if he just declares this drone and you blow all your for greater good, then your remaining models can no longer Overwatch when they're charged by this Klaivex, right? So kind of had to give that up. The Acothyst is going to re-roll that charge. Only gets 5 inches, so I don't think he gets enough for that charge, even on the reroll. Yeah,
Yeah, no, and that looked like an important play there to Shane's thing, because if he would have charged that drone, he probably could have taken it out and at the very least consolidated into that shield, into the stealth suit and forced a fallback next turn, which is not the optimal way you want to do that. But I mean, Shane can really pressure that by just charging those drones, and I'm curious now, what are they? Is he? What are they? What is he? Oh yeah, okay, here it comes. So now he's gonna. Oh, he's
he's
declaring on
declaring
all
all
three.
three, so all of them are going to get to Overwatch. There's not going to be any for the greater good. Okay, maybe he's just declaring the two. I'm not. Oh yeah, he's declaring the two because it looks like that gun drone in the back would have been close enough for the greater good from that center one. So he's not going to declare it because that would have added an extra 4 shots of Overwatch into the equation. Oh no, maybe they are. Maybe they measured it and maybe not. That's one. That's one hit here. Looking for. Oh, and he rolls a 2 on the wound. This is just.
So many twos.
Yeah, brutal. Absolutely brutal. Especially right, you're fishing for those sixes on Overwatch, and then you get one. There's a lot of cases in my history with TAO where like I have re-rolled a wound roll on Overwatch just because I know it's so tough to get those sixes. So you re-roll that wound, but again, he has no CP here. And against a 3-up save model, maybe not the best use, right? But here's the 2 shots from that other drone. Oh, that 6 rolls over into a 5.
It was right there.
It was. So none of that Overwatch is going to hit this Klaivex. Here's the charge roll. He gets 6 inches. I'm sure that's more than enough to get him in on all of these models if he wants. So yeah, he's in on the stealth suit. He's in on the gun drone. Um,
He is just tied up that center now. So I mean, we still have one rail off to the right there. But that center is just, oh, and Shane picks up a bounty hunter there to start running up the score here in preparation. But honestly, like with that charge getting in there and the other rail down there, yeah, he's measuring that rail. That rail is going to be able to get an obscured shot, it looks like. But
gonna be a single shot though,
honestly,
not a double.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
going to
because
be a
it's a
single shot,
long
and
range
the
obscured,
statistics on that.
and that's your comms, so he can't boost himself. So it's tough. I mean, right? You take what you're given, right? You never know, that long range shot could. Okay, looks like we're getting a charge in the bottom onto the Recon Drone. He does hit one of those. And a 2 on the wound again.
Oh my gosh.
He cannot get a wound through to save his life right now. And it is yeah, this is I don't know, that position of
RNG is
yeah.
just not favoring the Tau today. I mean, so many shots in round one, so many shots here. He's just not hitting those numbers.
I don't believe that's enough, so he's gonna have to re-roll this. Needing an 8, it looks like, or a 7 to get onto this model here, so. And there's a 9, so he can get in on both of those. So Mandrake is coming in, people. Let's see. I think he's going to position him to be on both of them here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think he will, and like this is going to be pretty harsh too because you have to keep all four quadrants to get that, and I mean this potentially is going to eliminate his ability to really do much of anything at this point. And yeah, you got your Mandrakes moving in now, taking objectives and kind of holding things down. Yep,
Picking up those
we'll see.
bounties. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
picking up those bounties. It's going to be a really rough. This is a rough position to come back from, and just a lot of bad rolls coming up here.
an advance of 6 on the reroll here for this veteran Mandrake, so he is going to have enough movement, I believe, to get on this objective and be right up in that drone's face. Or,
And
okay,
those,
no, he's not. He's going to stay obscured, which is interesting, right? Because that drone's already going to be hitting you on 6s because of your innate -1. So I don't know about hiding him. Like I would just, if you could, put him on the edge of this, contest that objective, and you're, getting shot the same as you would pretty much anywhere else. Although it looks like right now he's just trying to hide him from any kind of shooting at all. Those mandrakes obviously a little less tough than the other models he has because they have their 5-up invuln. But
five
yeah,
up invuln and feel no pain though. I mean, those are still Mandrakes are still pretty tough, even though they have those high rolls. They have the innate ability to avoid being hit with that innate -1 to hit. On top of that, trying to get through that plus a 5-up plus the 6-up, they are really tough models. And I mean, this was the main fear that I had when I was considering my own roster was how to deal with all these mandrakes. And really, it just comes down to like rolling a shovel full of dice to try and shoot them. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
which the
But
Tau have, right? The Tau have a shovel full of
yeah,
dice, but that or flamers, I guess, right, is the answer to them. But even then, with their movement that they have, it can be difficult to. I mean, it can be difficult to get into range and have it, especially if you have the initiative. They can just avoid that 8-inch bubble around your flamer. Uh, so a little bit more movement here. Not being as risky, right? He could have moved that veteran up, and I think he could have contested this point. Would have given the drone some shots, right? Might as well take away shots from the drone, not give it anything to really shoot at. Will have shots at that Acothyst over there. But that looks like potentially it, right? This drone right here is going to get shot at by 1, 2, 3 mandrakes. So that's kind of terrifying. 4 mandrakes if you include the Nightfiend leader back there. I would say that gun drone that did not get into the combat is not long for this world. Yeah, this is a tough position. Like I said, I see a few things in positioning wise with the Tau that maybe I would have done a little bit differently. Other than that, it's really just been uh, an issue of initiative, not giving him the shots that he wanted with his rails turn 1, and then the shooting he did have not coming through for him, right? Even on the Overwatch, he's gotten
yeah,
some hits and just not gotten the wounds that he needed to punch through these models.
yeah. And I mean, Shane is really capitalizing on not losing models to shooting and Alec going first. Like he's taking advantage of that the best that he can right now, and it's really just paying off for him at this point. Um, Seeing this tide of mandrakes coming in from the left side of the board there, we're going to have some interesting movement. And Shane doesn't even really need to score more because he's already planning on kills. He's planning on uh, a number of other ways at this point to really start racking up points.
There's a hit on the Acothyst, so looking for a wound. Oh my gosh, these twos
Another two.
on wounds. Unbelievable. Okay, here we go. Next 2 shots. He hits both of these. All right, that's huge on that Acothyst. Needs this kill. Scores at least 1 wound that time, but those twos absolutely killer. So here's the 4-up invuln. Looks like a 1. Going to get his feel no pain, or is he going to reroll? Shane looking like, I mean, there's not really a whole lot else he'd use that reroll on, so.
No,
And he rolls into the 1 again. So
rolls a one.
we will have the feel no pain, though. Don't they get the feel no pain? Is there not a FNP on the rack? Am I
I
missing something
don't
here?
believe so, maybe. It looks like he's taken him out of action. And I don't know that Shane would have made that mistake, but I mean that's definitely
Yeah,
uh,
I'm not sure. But yeah, because he re-rolled that save, but I could have sworn they also had the feel no pain. Didn't roll it. Who knows? We'll have to ask them in the post game about that. Not sure. Could have just been a missed opportunity, or we could have missed something up here on the dice rolls. So this rail, looking at its options, and they are not good. He does not have a single target, other than I guess potentially that Acothyst would have been within half range, but looks like he's going to be taking one shot. This is going to be on sixes, one shot on sixes because it's a Mandrake, it's long range, it's yeah, one shot on sixes here. So
I think we're hoping for the law of averages to start turning around with his dice at this point. I mean that
he
Acothyst.
gets the
Oh, there it
six.
is.
He
There
gets
it
the
is.
six. All right, now a two would be perfect on wounding, right? But now we're gonna. Okay, we get the wound. Gonna
We
get the
get it.
5-up invuln save here. No save. D3 damage.
Oh, here it comes.
2 damage. Got to make 2 feel no pains. Oh, that was close. My heart skipped a beat. So here we go. The 2 damage out of action roll. Oh, and he only
Oh
manages to
no, it
flesh
happened
wound him.
again.
Oh, well, I mean, it's better than nothing, but you're really looking for the out of action there. You need to start dropping models so your other models can feel safe in turns 3 and turn 4 to move up the field, because that's the thing, right? Is like, let's say this combat doesn't go exactly how he wants it, or any number of things go Alec's way. Now you're talking about turn 3, turn 4. You have nobody in recon sweep. You have nobody in these 2 quadrants on this side of the board. And if you move anybody up, they're looking down the barrel of 1, 2, 3 Mandrakes and a Nightfiend. So, yeah. Shooting at that gun drone, the one that's not in combat. Looking like he gets the no wound there because it is wounding on force. Forgot about that. 4 on toughness 4. So this gun drone's going to take its shots back at the veteran. Uh, Maybe he'll split his shots. Not sure. We'll find out. All right, yeah, he's putting his first 2 shots into that guy. Going to be hitting on 6s here because drones do have a ballistic score of 5. You're looking at the innate -1 plus probably slightly obscured. Okay, going into the back now. Maybe he changed his mind. I'm not sure. Okay.
One shot on each, maybe.
Is he going to split them that way? That's interesting.
Oh, he got it.
Or he's slow rolling
Re-rolled
them?
that
I'm
one
not
into a
sure.
6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a wound into the Mandrake.
But he makes the
Oh,
5-up
but he made
save.
that 5-up.
Or he's just splitting the shots. Okay, yeah, he's splitting them. Which is a bizarre way to split them. But I guess it gives you the potential for out of actions on both, but nothing going through there. So had the one go through, made the 5-up save, and that's all we got. So now the Mandrakes, all of these Mandrakes, this one, and the Nightfiend will all get to shoot back at that poor little gun drone. And as I said earlier, I don't think he's long for this world.
Yeah, Shane measuring out that rail is just out of range. Oof.
2 hits. Oh no, 1 hit. And no wound. What was he shooting at? Was he shooting at the rail?
No, I think he was shooting at the drone.
I didn't think the drone was obscured from him, but it might be. I don't know how people are doing it on TTS, but in in-person tournaments, that is one of the negatives of the drone being, it can fly, but it's high up on that base. So if it's
Right.
over anything, you do not count as obscured, right? Your base is not part of the model. The model itself is the whole thing up in the air. So 2 shots there, 2 hits. Looking at wound rolls, 1 wound for a 5-up save. Does not get it. Out of action roll. And a flesh wound.
And a flesh wound, yeah. So that's interesting. Shane put, it looks like 4 separate models of shots,
Yep.
4 Mandrakes into that one, and it just ate those shots up. So I mean that drone's putting in some work, and I think that's interesting that we didn't get that off. I mean, we still have that Klaivex out in the middle to see what he's gonna do, but I mean, that's a good look for Alec, anyways, because that model's still standing after eating all those shots.
Yeah. Again, though, that drone's still standing. What does it do for you, right? Because, oh, he's in position to score me one of my quadrants over here next turn, but with all these Mandrakes and a Nightfiend in that back line, I mean, that's a scary place
Yeah.
for a little drone to go before he had a flesh wound. So we are getting into this combat in the bottom right. Looks like, yeah. Oh, okay, interesting. He's going to be putting everything into that Pathfinder. I thought he might put the Mandrake into the Recon Drone to try to eliminate the Savior protocols, but one attack going through, one wound going through. He will get a 6-up save here, which... Oh, and he rolls into the 6-up
Oh
save and he
wow.
saves. So
Oh wow.
the little
And that's
Pathfinder
going to
that could.
be interesting there because that's going to be a tight space, and I don't know, are we going to count that as intervening terrain, or because it doesn't look like he can fully get that piece around. Oh, I think maybe I'm just at a bad angle.
Yeah, I'm not sure if his intent was to try to get in onto that drone as well, though it doesn't really matter. He can only attack the path. So okay, the Incubi is putting its 3 attacks into that Pathfinder, and it looks like only one of them hits.
Wow.
Looking at a 3 to wound here, gets the wound, but now no save for the Pathfinder, but he will put it off onto the Recon Drone, so the Recon Drone will be down to 1 wound. So that is why I was interested. I thought the Mandrake would potentially put his attacks into the drone to try to get it out of there, but yeah, so that Recon Drone is accounted for now, 1 out of 2 wounds. So
I mean,
put it,
that's really good news for Shane, though. I mean, we're gonna see, or not Shane. I'm sorry,
yeah,
for
for
Alec.
Alec, yeah,
We're gonna
very
see
good
some
news.
fallback now.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good news for him. He gets that rail to survive. Obviously, won't be able to shoot turn 3, but potentially set up some shots for turn 4. So this combat going on in the center now. He's putting 2 of his attacks into that drone. One of them goes through, and one of them wounds because he is the Zealot model. So that's 1 wound there. Or I thought. Am I wrong? Oh, no save because the -3. Yes, so that is the out of action roll, and he gets it. I was thinking shield drone with the invuln save, but that is not the case. Other 3 attacks go into the cell suit. It looks like only one of them hits. Looking for that 6 wound for the 3 damage. Not going to get it.
Nope.
Does get a wound, though, so this will get a 6-up save. No save, so that is going to go to Savior Protocols, I assume, and potentially eliminate this gun drone. Needs to roll
The
really
gun
low
drone
here
that
to get a...
could.
Yeah, needs to get a... He only needs a 3 now for the out of action, unfortunately. And he rolls, yeah,
Oh,
so that gun drone is gone, but the big part of this is the stealth suit survives and he can fall back and shoot. So this can potentially fall back, get into the recon sweep position that we were talking about. But see, again, that's another reason why now if he falls back, he can get into this quadrant, but he cannot get into recon, I believe, based on the fact that he had to start at least 9 inches away from the deployment, right? And it's only an 8-inch move model. This is why, again, in that turn 2, I would have moved this stealth suit up, and then I would have positioned the drone so that you can get for the greater good, so you can get Savior protocols, but so that they're in those quadrants that he desperately needed to score. Because now, even though he survives this combat with the stealth suit, he's not going to do much.
right. Now you're the TAO expert. These drones, I know that they don't count as part of the fire team, but are they going to count towards the morale phase?
Oh yes. Oh, they most definitely do. And they can't be specialists, so they can't, uh, go up for anything like that, but they're 100% part of it. So that was the 3 attacks into the Klaivex. He did get 1 attack through, but it did not fail to wound. So that is one thing too about combat. People talk about the crisis or the stealth suit leader there with the 3 attacks. Yeah, they're hitting on 5s, 6s, or I guess 5s against the Klaivex, 6 against the Mandrakes, but I have killed things before with those 3 attacks. Sometimes 3 attacks hitting on 5s, again, it's a quantity thing over quality, but 1 attack back, and he does get the attack there on a 6. So now rolling to wound down here in this lower quadrant. Those
Two
twos,
again.
twos.
Two is like the sacred number of Nurgle for him today. It's just it keeps popping up. Okay, it looks like We're counting up points here. Tuesday wound, Alec Taljon. Oh, you're back, Ood?
I'm here.
Oh, sorry, I thought we lost you there for a minute.
No, I'm here. I just the twos are absolutely brutal for Alec. I was just making comment in the chat. But yeah, so we are looking now. I think they are discussing making these break tests for some of the models with flesh wounds. But I believe this guy cannot fail because there's only one of the models out of action. I do believe, let's see. I guess there's no more flesh wounded models on the board. There is 5 models out though. How many models? One,
Yeah,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he has 11 models. So he's just underneath that break test. But now, how do you score here for Alec, right? There's almost no way for him to get into that recon sweep scenario. And you're looking at turn 3, so you're looking at maybe turn 4 he can get recon sweep. So you're talking about one
yeah,
point there. But if he does that, he's really moving all over this board. I could see him potentially falling back from this mid combat onto this objective, looking for that bounty token. Um, Alec does win the initiative again, and again, I don't know if this is wins initiative, loses initiative. Yeah, it's a tough situation. Oh, I totally forgot to put the scoreboard back up. Every time we've gotten DC'd, I've had to do this, and I'm just looking over at the stream right now, and I did not have it up. But this is uh, this is going to be a tough ask at 11 to 5. I just don't know. Looking at the math, you're the math guy. If there's any way in this situation for him to make up those points with the state of the board as it is. Uh, I just don't know if there's a way for Alec to come back here, right? You're talking about there's one bounty token on the board, so that's at least one. Maybe he can set up a second one, right? But he's maybe maxing that out at 2. Recon sweep, there's no way for him to get it this turn. There's no models close enough. So you're talking
yeah. So
about,
I mean, 6 point deficit. That's gonna like, of course, anything's possible. But what you're asking at this point is essentially no more of his models are taken out of action. He has to at least kill one model per turn because he's not going to be able to make up those points with his secondaries. And so, I mean, statistically speaking, it does not favor him doing it. Like there is a path to do it at this point, but you're counting on a lot of RNG on models that just seem to defy logic with RNG because they just have so much going for them. And that wave of mandrakes coming in is not going to be easy for him to get those points.
yeah. Well, that's the crazy thing, right? You look at this and you go, okay, the stealth suit survived in the center. That Klaivex, I can fall back from it, still shoot. It's completely useless this turn. Over back here in this corner, the rail can fall back, the recon drone can fall back. The Mandrake could still shoot, though I assume he'll position away far enough away that he won't be able to. Although there is that tactic that he can use to fall back and still shoot with the Mandrake. So look for that to come into play. But this Incubi is going to be all but useless, right? But all of these models are on this side of the board. And on the other side of the board, where you need to be to score, engage on all fronts to score recon sweep, you still have a Nightfiend and 3 Mandrakes that will be more than ready to charge you and get into combat, right? I'm not sure that I see a way out of this for Alec. Like this is as a TAO player looking at the state of the board, he's gonna play it through. Obviously, he's a competitor, but I'm just not sure I see a way, mathematically for him to get the points that he needs to make up that 6 point deficit that you were just talking about.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean not just make up a 6 point deficit, but also counter any points that Shane's going to get. I mean, at this point, Shane has almost maxed out his secondaries.
Yeah. Yep. And although he hasn't gotten the kills, which I guess in this packet have they been I guess they are not. Oh no, that's the hold more. Sorry. He has been getting the kill. Okay. So I assume that they count the savior protocols as a kill in this format. I know there was some discussion about that in past formats, whether they count for secondaries or primary kills or whatnot, because how the model's taken out of action. But again, let's say he gets kill one, or hold one, hold more, because now you're also at a situation where the TAO player maybe has to give up some of these middle objectives to get into these quadrants to score his secondaries. Because if he just sits back on the objectives thinking, okay, I can score these objectives, those mandrakes can come in and contest and take those points away from you. And so finally, this gun drone is moved off that center line and into this quadrant, like I had been discussing in the previous turns. but it looks like that's all the movement he's going to do. So he's going to keep it on this objective, keep it in this quadrant, but now he's got to find some way to get his stealth suit
Oh,
into
see,
this
and now
fourth quadrant.
he's moving that he's looking at moving that stealth suit down there onto that into that quadrant down there,
Yeah, which
and
it looks
it
like he
looks like
can.
he's setting up for the engage on all fronts here, but he's got to survive any incoming attacks in order to do that. And he just gave up an objective there, which means that Shane's really going to be able to push for that hold more this round.
Yeah, that's interesting. See, I would have positioned, considering he's re-rolling charges, considering all the things, the state of the board, I would have put that cell suit on the ground floor so that it was scoring that objective and scoring him the engage on all fronts because I feel like he just needs as many objectives as he can get at this point. And I mean, this is a situation where, look, you have this shield drone now, the one that he forgot to move turn one, move to turn two over here. A shield drone in your back line, unless it's protecting a rail, which I guess in this case might be kind of what he's thinking, but you really want that up there to like engage that Klaivex to hold that recon sweep. And he only had the one, and it was on this objective here, and it got killed turn one. Obviously, wouldn't have survived even if it was in the recon sweep position, but I just think maybe not the best utilization of these shield drones, which I'm sure Alec is aware of. He forgot to move it, things happen. But just trying to, look at maybe things that could have changed the way this game went. Obviously, some of those wound rolls being a 3 instead of a 2 would have absolutely turned this game into a different story. But
Yeah, so I mean, if we look at the math on the on the remaining objectives, he can only score 9 points in primaries. So that means if he kills one, holds one each round, he's still going to max out without having to max out everything else. And he's got that rail that's free and clear now that he can really just take shots with. So I think the math that he's doing in his head right now is that he only needs to hold one, kill one each round. And hopefully we've gotten past all of the twos at this point, right?
yeah,
And so I think the route that he's taking right now is to start positioning for secondaries, hold one, and kill one each round.
now,
But there's a problem now because if he loses another piece, he's going to be rolling those nerve tests, which means potentially he's going to be losing some people that are helping him achieve those objectives.
yeah, now a scary thing now, we had a charge move over here. This flesh wounded Mandrake did get in onto this gun drone. Something to think about here in this lower, you were talking about, oh, he's got this, rail that's free and clear now. He fell back that rail, but he left him in the open. And if you look, all Shane has to do is leave that Mandrake where it stands, and he's going to get to shoot this Pathfinder gunner in the back lines, that sniper, right? That sniper's not going to get to shoot him because it fell back, but he can stand there and shoot. And there is that tactic where you can fall back and still shoot. So had he hidden the Pathfinder rail rifle, I still think the potential would have been there for Shane to use that fallback and shoot tactic to get him into a position to still be able to shoot the rail. But at least then you're making Shane spend that CP. The way that he fell back right here, he is leaving Shane to do absolutely nothing and still get to shoot his rail rifle.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, really, I guess the only thing he could have done with that to try and avoid that situation is when he fell back to try and fall back on the other side of that container there. Yeah,
Yeah.
right in that area there. That would have been safer, but still with that tactic, he could have forced Shane to at least spend a point on a tactic, I think, that way. But I don't know. He's proven to be a little bit survivable. His dice are turning around on him now, and he's getting some nice shots in, it looks like, potentially. So, you know, I think Alec, looking at the math, I think maybe he sees a path. Shane is going to continue to score hold one, or let's see. Right now he's got two objectives on. He's got one guy up there challenging. So Shane's going to get hold more this round and potentially kill. So Shane will max out his primaries. His secondaries are already maxed out. So really, I mean, we have to be scoring like 4 points, 5 points a turn he's going to make this up by turn or by round 5 or by round 4.
End of
Excuse
round
me.
4, yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, it's a tough ask. So I believe this Incubi fell back here to cover the Mandrake from shots from the stealth suit, giving him some cover there. But this Recon Drone did fall back from combat and does have fly, so he will be able to still fire at that Mandrake or at that Incubi, most likely into the Mandrake. Um, Again, I understand that the tactic could have been used, but I think you have to put your opponent in a position like don't let him hold on to that CP for a potential reroll, right? Make him spend
Right.
that CP to use that tactic to move his model into a less favorable position too, right? Because if he hides this Pathfinder back here, the Mandrake has to use the 1 CP to move to still shoot him, but he also puts himself in perfect sights of this comms rail by doing that, right? If he had to come around the edge of this to shoot a Pathfinder over here, he would have been in view of that comms rail rifle. Now, mind you, the rail rifle has some other target options, but I just think in this situation, when you're down like this, you have to think of ways that to make the board difficult for your opponent. Because obviously Shane's ahead. He's got the models he needs to finish this off. He's got the board position that he needs to continue to score these objectives and, you know, put some punishment onto the TAO. You've got to eliminate as many of those scenarios as you can, and it's tough going first, having the the initiative, of course. But you just some of these scenarios. This is again coming from a TAO player and coming from somebody who's sitting up here in the booth, quote unquote, watching the game rather than in it playing it. And I know some of those little thoughts can slip out of your mind when you're in the middle of a game, especially in a tournament game, and you're trying to keep moving your models and trying to keep up the pace, and you forget about some of these little things. But that's just small thing to think about there for anybody watching is you got to really punish your opponent. So this is the Recon Drone firing into that Mandrake. 2 hits, 2 wounds. Gonna see 2 5-up saves here. 1 save does make it, but 1 does not. We're gonna feel no pain. No feel no pain. Out of action roll
Ooh.
coming up. Oh, that was a reroll. There's the feel no pain. Still fails. There's the
Out
5.
of
There's the
action.
out of
Nice.
action. Absolutely needed that for Alec. So
Yeah. 100%. So I mean, he's going to drop a bounty. Alec's going to get kill 1 for the round. So I mean, he's made a move that he needed. He was successful there. Hopefully, also he doesn't lose his Pathfinder, which is going to set him up for next round.
yeah,
So I mean, that was absolutely needed, and he pulled it off there.
yeah. All right, looks like this Mandrake veteran taking some shots into that comms rail. And with a 1 and a 2, I'm going to say neither of those hit.
Yeah, not going to make that.
Uh, so this stealth suit will have shots onto that Incubi, I believe. Can he see him from the tippity tip of his little fin? It looks like he can see him back there. So he will be able to take some shots.
Oh, he's actually going to try and remove that guy from the objective there.
Yeah. I would say that the Mandrake is the easier potential kill, right? Like more kill potential there because of the 5-up compared to the 3-up on the Incubi. The Incubi is scoring points, though. He is in that recon sweep scenario. And, I would be still scared of that Incubi charging back in on turn 4. But he also has to
Yeah,
eliminate that Mandrake so he can potentially move up and get these engage on all fronts or get that recon sweep. So they are going to take the stealth shots into the Mandrake. Here they go. Believe that's 2 hits and 1 reroll here. All right, so. Oh, was he hitting on 6s there? He might have been hitting on
might
6s
have been
there.
hitting on 6s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was over half range, so he would have been hitting on 6s. So none of those hit. 2 shots from the Mandrake. Looks like one of those hits and fails to wound, I believe. So.
yeah,
Whew, this is this shooting. I mean, it's helping Alec, right? He's not losing anything, but he's also failed to take something out with the stealth suit, which he felt like he really needed. And we're gonna see this rail's gonna get its shots now. I think he's looking at potential targets. I think that Mandrake those 2 Mandrakes over there might be his only real options. Whether
yeah.
he's in range for the 2 shots or not, I'm not sure. Oh, Pathfinder move tactic. Okay. Which Pathfinder is he moving? Oh, okay. This seems scary to me.
Oh, oh,
So,
where's he going? Oh, you know what? I mean, yeah, he's he's put in kind of a scary position, but he's also both of those Mandrakes there have shot, but now he's putting himself in a position where he can score engage on all front if he loses that drone.
If he loses that drone, yeah,
And
yeah, that's
and
what it's
he's
looking
trying
like.
to set up for the hold more. So he could max out 3 plus get another 1, which would really help kind of make up for some of that distance there. It's still going to be a really tough round 4, but I mean, he's definitely doing what he can to make up those points.
Yeah, and you still have the Nightfiend leader here available to tech, so that Pathfinder is now in open view of that Nightfiend. So here goes those shots. One hit. I believe that is a wound. We're going to see a 6-up save, and he does not get it. Looking at it out of action. Oh, thankfully he gets the flesh wound there. Thankfully for Alec, rather, but that is a.
But I mean, he's still in now. Now he's going to have to make a break test at the end of the
Yep,
round,
he
though.
will. He will have to make that break test. Thankfully, Sasea, right? Leaders off the board, but everybody gets a +1 to leadership. I still think you're looking at a leadership 7 roll, though, so that is kind of scary. Yeah, fight phase over here. Gun drone versus Mandrake, flesh wounded Mandrake, so it is hitting at a -1. I believe they're having a little discussion here, but we'll see those rolls come through shortly. Not sure
Alec
what's.
is really going to hit a bad spot right now. Like if he maxes out points this round, there's only one eligible point that he can get from primaries after that. So he's going to have to pour everything into preventing Shane from now getting more primaries, but also he's going to have to pour everything into eking out 2 or 3 more points.
Does hit, does wound, rolls into a 6 save, and the little
Wow.
drone survives. So, I mean, obviously you couldn't have predicted that, but now that that drone survived, that Pathfinder, maybe those shots would have been a little bit more helpful than the move tactic, right? And you would have had that 1
Yeah.
CP to potentially re-roll a save or something like that. Interestingly enough, right, that Mandrake with the flesh wound is at a -1. It is turn 3, so he would have been hitting on 2s. So 2 of those rolls actually would have hit had it not been for that flesh wound, the 2 2s there. So that flesh wound was actually pretty big that he put on him.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, I mean, in all likelihood, I think that Pathfinder is going to shake during the nerve test this round. So, I mean, it's good that that thing survived. That's definitely going to help Alec kind of rein in the score a little bit here. Shane only coming out of this with one primary point, and he's almost maxed out his secondary. So I don't. He's going to get recon sweep,
Well, it
most likely.
actually is going to be right. He might get hold more if that Pathfinder shakes. He gets hold more here.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I mean, if the whole team, sh- oh, oh, he's broken.
Oh,
Oh, he's
yeah,
broken.
that's it.
And
There's
that
that's gonna be it, I think.
that is going to be all she wrote here, I believe, because now you're losing out on that hold one. Even if we were worried about the one, now everything's going to be hitting on a -1 too. This rail rifle though, here we go. This All right, so he's going to do the rail rifle first, I believe. Okay, he's going to do the cell suit first.
Stealth suit. Is the stealth suit have a higher leadership?
It does actually. The cell suit. So he would have been breaking on a 9 there, but rolling an 11, there's not a whole lot you can do. So he's leadership 9, but there's 5 models out, so he's okay. He's okay actually. He survives.
Yeah.
So
So doing that to try and stack up to make sure he's not getting extra penalties for shaken models there.
yeah. Oh boy, this Pathfinder now. So he's gonna need a. That's not gonna do it.
That's not going to cut the cheese on that one, I think.
Yep, that Pathfinder is shaken. And it's all but looking like this is going to be a Druhkari victory. We're going to have our first
Yeah.
Druhkari player moving into the semifinal phase. Potential for 2 more to do so. Oh, that's another shake and rail back there. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
this is pretty much all but done. We'll see.
Yeah,
Alec,
he needs ones at this point.
yeah, Alec might. Oh, there's the one on the drone.
There's one. He gets 1 point still.
Yeah. Well, no, that one's tied up on that objective with a Mandrake,
Oh, it
so
is tied up.
so
So,
he
yeah, so I mean that's no points.
can't even get the hold one there. So he'll get the kill one this turn, right? But that'll be it.
Yeah, mathematically, there's no way Alec can come back now from having his team shaken, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I think Alec tried his best on this one to try and outwit the Druhkari, but that turn one with getting no shots just really set him back from the beginning. And Shane just capitalized over and over on his secondary objectives with the bounty hunters, and he had some really nice shots in there. So this is going to be a pretty rough go of it.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Alec realized the Nightfiend was still there available to shoot when he moved that Pathfinder up. Mind you, obviously, right, the team still would have broken, so even without the flesh wound, he would have had to have taken that test and he would have failed it. But just yeah. All right, looks like okay, so maybe they're going to give him the point for recon sweep. I'm not sure. They're discussing some final things here, but I think they're just about done.
Yeah.
So we'll jump into that chat in a moment and get their thoughts. All right, they are calling it. So let's jump over there and absolute caveman. All right, let's jump over to their channel and talk to them about this.
Yeah, I'm hitting on 5s, but like never against the Mandrake.
Hello, 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 gentlemen. Good game.
Hello.
Well played.
Hi.
Alec, how about those 2s on wound rolls, man? Absolutely killing you.
Oh man.
Brutal, brutal, brutal. You have the initiative turn 1 and turn 2, which is tough as a TAO player. I know it. Took away those rails from you, and then the shots you were getting through, even on Overwatch, you were hitting some 6s, some clutch 6s. All you need is 3s to wound, and you couldn't get any through. And then so I guess obviously tough game, great game between both of you. We saw the potential there from the start for either team and what you guys were looking to do on the board. How that unfolded obviously didn't worked out for some of you, didn't work out for the rest of you. I have a few questions here for you, Alec. Just coming from a TAO player, of course you're gonna get some questions from me. One of the things was so that shield drone you pointed out, you left it there. Was the intent for that to follow the stealth suit to the center of the board, or to follow the leader over here and potentially screen out this corner?
I wasn't worried about the charge over here.
Mm-hmm.
I think with 2 wounds, I would have put him over on the leader.
Yeah.
I think that would have been the right move. Just because he's just squishier, and especially Shane could have deep struck a Mandrake right back here or something. I think he should have moved there. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I was thinking as well. Obviously, the stealth suit also 2 wounds, -1 to hit on him. You're less afraid of him dying, especially turn 1 from the shooting, and on the charge you get the 4 shots. It's a pretty good scenario for that stealth suit. That was interesting too in the muster, right? Wasn't 100% expecting to see a stealth suit from you. What were your thoughts kind of behind that? Obviously, you had a plan, right? You came in, you used the quote unquote deep strike tactic for the stealth suit, which is a weird one because you come in at the start of the round rather than at the end of the round, but brought in that stealth suit and then brought in those 3 drones, which took away all your CP from the start. You want to talk a little about that?
Yeah. So I thought I think this is a tough map for a shooting team, because if they survive round 1, they're going to be in and they're going to be murdering you. So the thing I wanted to do was to figure out how to get as much board control from the start as possible, and especially make his Mandrakes take some 6-up hits and see if they could save them. Yeah. So the stealth suit was sort of a last minute. I thought about taking I've got a triple flamer crisis, which I thought about putting like right on the boundary and just saying, come at me, bro. Right. Which, in retrospect, would Shane have lined up everybody up like that? Probably not. But I think that might have been an interesting game to play. But yeah, I took the stealth suit instead of. I just didn't think another Pathfinder with a rail rifle was going to do much on this map. I just didn't think I could get him very far, and I wasn't sure that I needed a couple extra drones. And I thought the leadership would help, and it almost helped.
Yeah, well, when you roll an 11, it's kind of tough to not break, no matter what team you're playing as. So that was I mean, although to be fair, right there at the end, even if it weren't for the break, that's a tough ask for your team to do at that point.
Oh yeah, no, I wasn't coming back anyways, but that just sort of solidified it. Yeah, no, I was generally I was almost happy with my positioning on the first turn. I should have moved into shield drone, but I got the board control I wanted. I was glad to have initiative on turn 1 because that meant that I got to deep strike where I wanted to, and then it was then I got the objective control and all that. But yeah, like not being able to make any not having Shane make any saves in round 1 or not even fail them is that's that was the turn I needed to get a couple kills and I didn't.
All right, I have 1 or 2 more questions really quick for Alec, then we'll get over to our winner. Just this is coming from a TAO brain of mine that I'm sitting here. Just a few things. One thing that I noticed in the deep strike, you put a gun drone here and a shield drone here. What was the thought process? I would generally want to put my shield drone in kind of the recon sweep position, since that's 2 points. That's a quadrant and a recon sweep. Was there any thought there? Was that maybe the shield drone was going to be on an objective and you wanted to hold that objective more than you wanted to hold the recon sweep, or maybe just not expecting as many mandrakes to be back there with them?
Yeah, I thought he would spread his mandrakes out more, and he almost did, but it was that the leader was back here, and if I can get a couple shots on the Nightfiend leader, if one of those goes through, I'm pretty confident I can force him to an injury roll.
Yeah. I mean, it was an interesting team. You took an interesting approach with that stealth suit tactic. I personally have never used that tactic because there aren't a lot of situations where I feel like it helps you, right? It's got to be 9 inches from deployment zone, which is like when you think about their 8-inch movement, like they could just move there to begin with, kind of thing. But it was an interesting use of that. I liked the dropping into the drones. It became tough. I'm not a positive on what the other secondary options were here, but it kind of scared me. Obviously, once we saw where all his mandrakes were, all I was thinking the whole game was, okay, so even if he survives these combats, even if he gets a few kills, now he's got to move models into 4 mandrakes to get recon sweep or to get engage on all fronts. Like, you were going to have to move into the mandrakes, which just felt like this terrible board state from the TAO's point of view. Not sure how you felt about that, or what maybe I guess you were looking at secondary wise that led you to do double positional.
I wasn't sure that I could get multiple kills per round, and I didn't end up doing that. In terms of positional, I've got more models than he does, and so I thought that I might be able to out position him. Recon sweep is tough on this one because the deployment zone is so small. But that was my hope, and I did manage to get one drone in there. Yeah, maybe if I've put the shield drone in there, I might have survived and gotten that recon sweep. But I didn't get the kills that I wanted to, and even from the starting position that I was happy with.
Yeah, absolutely. Brutal first round of shooting for you. We were talking about that
it was so funny.
I mean, having the initiative is tough. You got to position these rails and then hope that he leaves you some targets. And then the targets that you did have, you got some hits, and then you just could not get those wounds through. And I know that pain. I've been there all too often as a TAO player. But great game, dude.
Yeah, and Shane definitely did good positioning on round 1 to deny me shots with the sniper and with the assault cannon on the recon drone. That was a good set of moves.
Yeah. Well played, dude. Absolutely, interesting. There's a lot of commentary on my part about the TAO position. So if you go back and listen to this, it's not.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's not a judgment of your play. It's just me looking at it with my TAO brain. I know, don't want to be too harsh on that. Oh, one final question. Some of these drones you left on this center line here, which I don't know if you thought about it at the time, or obviously in the heat of the moment, but why not have them on either left or right so that they're scoring a quadrant while still on the objective? Was it meant to be right on the line? Like, was that
Oh yeah, absolutely. I when I was deploying this drone back here, I wanted him actually a little bit inside. And I just didn't get him that far enough, and Yeah, no, it would have made more sense to put them on all the way on one side. I think for the one right here, I don't remember if I had enough movement to
Gotcha.
quite get all the way, but
Okay.
yeah. In general, you don't want to put someone on a quadrant boundary.
Yeah, definitely. Well, again, amazing game, great job. I'm gonna turn it over to our boy Tim, and he can ask our winner some questions. So, Tim, you got any questions for our boy Shane?
Yeah, Shane. So coming into this, you know that this is going to be a shooty team. Obviously, the Mandrakes have an advantage. You brought out the Klaivex, you brought out the Incubus, you brought out the Rack. Uh, was your plan essentially to just try and soak up shots and then get across the board, which is essentially what you did? What were you thinking about when you mustered?
So the key to me winning this matchup, I'm going to pull it up. It was this deployment. And I saw that recon sweep was an option, and I saw that I had a couple decent options for killy secondaries within their ranks and bounty. So my plan was to really take my melee models, tar pit this corner as much as I could, and in the event that he runs away up this way, then I can deep strike over here. What Alec ended up doing was bunkering down pretty well and distancing himself despite the close the close deployments. So I was only able to get a couple guys in there, but really that was all I ended up needing, and the rest of it was kind of me trying to chase him around, chase his drones around, and take shots where I can without leaving myself too open. He made it pretty hard for me at times, but yeah, that was essentially what I thought going in.
Yeah, no, and in that first move, we saw you put that Incubus. I thought it was a Klaivex at first, but you put him up there in that corner. Uh, what was your plan if that was taken out by the stealth suit? Because it looked like you had presented him with some options for shooting, and almost as if you were trying to bait him into shooting that. Did you have a plan after that?
Yeah, so that guy, that Incubus that ended up being there, I wanted that to be my Klaivex, but he didn't get a high enough advance. So I ended up moving the Klaivex right up here. I believe it was like right around this spot. Yeah, and the idea was for the Incubi and Klaivex, as long as the rails aren't shooting them, I like their chances of surviving. The stealth suit, I mean, he's a big, scary looking model, but when you give him the burst cannon, his effectiveness versus the Incubi is going to be a lot lower than it is against the Mandrakes. It's like perfect for killing Mandrakes, but the Klaivex and Incubi, not so much. That was why I brought the extra Incubi instead of the Mandrake. Although I was a little worried about the crisis potentially with this deployment, but he ended up going with the burst cannon, which was still kind of played into that mindset a little bit. So that worked out for me.
Right, right. And so looking forward now, I mean, you're moving into the round of 4, and there's the potential that you're going to be face to face with another Druhkari player. Have you given any thoughts to how you're going to respond to a mirror match, or is there some recipe in your list that maybe you're keeping under wraps right now? But do you have a plan for Druhkari on Druhkari at this point?
There's definitely a recipe. There's a secret recipe. I don't want to say it, obviously, but I've thought about it. I don't know how foolproof it is. Obviously, mirror matches get a little weird, but it's something that I've thought about. I mean, I knew going in that there was going to be a lot of Druhkari, so to not have a contingency plan for that would have been silly on my part. So it's definitely something that I've given some thought. I'm a little worried about it still if it happens. So I'm rooting for my boy Ray to get the win, so I don't have to do the Druhkari mirror.
Right, right. And so with this win, your score is going to move to, I believe, 1820, making you the first expert for the Kill Team ELO. You'll obviously have that month-long period there, but I just want to say congratulations on making it. You're the first one into the actual ranked areas of that section. So, I mean, looking forward, you could potentially, reach the master level by the end of the season. Is there any advice, moving away from this match? Is there any advice? Clearly you have the expertise. Uh, is there any advice you can give the players that are looking to climb that ladder right now? Because it looks like at this point they're going to have to climb pretty hard to reach that point. You're now, I believe, you're at 26 games with a win record of 23-3. Any advice to help any of these other players, or maybe some people watching that aren't involved in the server, to kind of help shore up that expertise?
Yeah, I mean, really it comes down to, I think the more games you play, the easier this is going to end up being for you. Even if it's not always ranked games that you are playing, if you're just playing like an unranked game, like maybe at least a few times a week, in my opinion, if you actually want to like get higher up on here. But I don't know. You just got to know the meta that these packets provide for you. I mean, both Alec and I here, we're playing pretty powerful teams for this map and this packet, and obviously, especially going into a tournament, give a real long thought about what it is that you want to bring, and because that might be some of your best chances to get matches against higher ranked players, because you can hop on like a match like the looking for ranked idea, and somebody might not want to play, or like you might not be able to find a game, but in a tournament setting you're gonna get games. You're gonna get into that position, and just I don't know, give the meta a good look before you throw your roster together, I guess.
Fair enough. Thank you again, and congratulations again. A lot more matches coming up, and obviously Shane, we'll see you in the next one. Alec, you played a great game, and you've done really well in this tournament so far. We look forward to seeing you again.
Hey, great game, Shane.
Thanks, Alec. You too.
Yeah, good game, guys. Great post game. Thank you for all that insight and information. I know it's not just the people in the chat or watching the YouTube video of this that are taking notes. I'm sitting here, writing them down too. How to beat Shane. I got my little notebook out. So take note. Druhkari are here to stay, right? Should be interesting. And for those of you who are looking to get involved in the tournament scene, I do believe we will have another tournament. Shane, is that one going to be coming up right at the end of this year or the start of next year? I forget what the.
It's going to be like middle/end. I'd say around the middle of December.
All right,
is when we're looking at the next big event. And for this one, I want to see if we can maybe do what's it called, registration up further in advance than we have for the past few tournaments. Usually we'll put it up for like a couple weeks maybe, but just to get registration out and push the event as much as we can, I think would be a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so if you are watching this, if you're looking for it, look to Command Point, find a link to their Discord. I'm sure it will be below this video if this goes onto YouTube, or you can find them on Twitter. You can find them on Instagram. You can find them here on Twitch. Command Point, look for that. Get onto the Discord, check it out. There's a whole bunch of us right now during these COVID times playing on Tabletop Simulator, and we have been running tournaments pretty much back to back here for the last few months. If you want to get on, if you want to play, if you want to learn, we have plenty of people ready to play against you and teach you. The next packet coming up is going to be Nova, or an adaptation of Nova. So since the Nova event did not get to happen in person this year, we're going to put on our own little one, kind of using their packet. I believe there's a few little tweaks and changes that we have going on, but yeah, it should be very interesting. Going to be 100 points again. So those of you that maybe aren't as familiar with the game, it's not as much as diving into 125 points, but please come join us. The more the merrier. Get into these games. Maybe we have our next Shane out there in the audience somewhere coming to dethrone you. So
maybe.
All right, good game, guys, and everybody have a pleasant afternoon.
Take care.